Hey guys, this is John, and I'm playing Hultin in the 5-minute pool on ICC. Hultin opens with b3, the Nimzo-Larsen attack. Let's play d5 against that. That's what I have been doing lately. I actually faced b3 in a few bullet games earlier today, and I don't know, I'm just not a fan of playing e5 against b3, which is ironic because the first time I beat a Grandmaster, I actually played e5 in response to the Nimzo-Larsen attack, and it went awesome, and I won a nice game. But yeah, I've since moved away from that move. I just adopt this flexible formation most of the time now. So the knight comes to d7, and this dark square bishop, its fate as of now is uncertain, but most likely it'll go to d6. In some cases it might go to e7, probably d6 though. All right, they're looking for exchanges. I could take on e2 and then take on e5. That's just real equal, and I think I will do that. This is just a real simple way of playing. I think I've already basically equalized. I mean, yeah, there's nearly nothing for white to go on in this position. Okay, this move gives me the option of playing d4, which I probably will take, because otherwise they can play d4 themselves. So I like d4 because now if they take me and I take with the queen, this d-pawn is backward. So this drives a nice wedge into their pawn formation. I think I might have a small advantage now. It also stops them from developing their knight. Those of you who might be cringing at these early simplifications really should think about playing equal positions and not being afraid to play equal positions, I guess is the point I was getting at. There's still a lot of play left in a position like this. I don't at all feel like because I've exchanged off some minor pieces that I can't play for a win. But in reality, you shouldn't fear simplifications against most every player. So e4 is probably a good reply. I actually underestimated that reply. So if I play d3, he's going to go queen e3. I do have queen e5 then, but then by virtue of playing d3, they get access to the c3 square with their knight. So I don't quite like that. e5 is a threat, so obviously I have to pay attention to that. I'm thinking maybe queen f4. But queen f4, they'll just play d3. That's very easy for them. I might just have to resign myself to the fact that they will play d3 next move, unless I want to play d3 myself. But again, that queen e3 move just seems like it keeps me under pressure, and d3 could become more of a weakness than a strength. I could play e5. e5, d3, and then they might eventually play for f4 is the thing. Let's go knight d7 first. I'm expecting them to play d3 in response to this, but I'm just trying to be flexible. I don't know if I want to play e5 yet. I probably will play e5. They actually played f4 in reply. Okay. So I'm thinking e5 now. e5 or d3 and then e5. Maybe d3 and then e5. Let's do that. I'm expecting queen e3 once again. So I give them the c3 square, but this is a little bit different now, because when I go e5, my d3 pawn is better protected. If I could especially get my knight to e5, that would be nice. So let's do this. They can maybe play rook f3, but I can take on f4 if need be. There's also knight c5. So I just want my d-pawn to be an annoyance for them. It's an interesting strategy. Let me just check this player, Hultin, when I get a chance, because I'm pretty sure I played them before. Okay, what if I play a5, followed by knight c5? Could do that. Queen d4 is also very interesting. I actually really like the look of queen d4. I am going to play that. So my point is that after the queens get traded, if they opt to do that, then I plant my knight on e5. This knight might have a real tough time getting in the game. And the double d-pawns control so much territory. I don't think white wants to take. I think they should play knight c3 or knight a3, probably knight c3 in this position. Yeah, I think they should definitely play knight c3. Then maybe I'll play rook d8 after that. It seems like the trade of queens would strand my d-pawn, but with that knight getting to the gorgeous e5 square and being unassailable from that square, I don't think white can seriously contemplate trading queens right now. I think that would just be awful for them. So if knight c3, what if I take and then play knight f6? That might be okay. I mean, I have some pressure there. I think I'll play rook d8, though, all the same. Yeah, rook d8. Let's play that quick. Good move. It just gets my rook behind the queen and potentially the d-pawn if I need to defend it. So if I play knight c5 and they go b4, what do I have? Nothing special. So I'm thinking knight f6. Yeah, let's go knight f6. Maybe knight g4 can be a threat? Yeah, actually it is a threat. Knight g4, that would compel them to capture on d4. Then I can take with the pawn, hit the knight, and my knight is getting into that magic e5 square again. Probably they should play h3. Ooh, this could be nice. Just making sure. So knight g4, take, pawn takes. Knight d1, let's say. Knight e5. Oh, they can get their knight to f2, though. That is so annoying. So knight g4, take, knight d1, knight e5, rook g3. I have to defend the pawn. Let's say castles, and then knight f2. So disappointing. Okay, let's go ahead and play h5. I'm just staking out space on this wing. Yeah, they're maneuvering their knight. They're trying to surround my d-pawn. I can take on e4 now, though, can't I? Knight takes e4, queen takes d4, rook takes d4. Yes, I can do that. Okay, let's do that. I'm also threatening to take on d2 now. They could play, after the queen trade on d4, they could maybe play knight f2. And if I take on f2, they have rook takes e5. So I'm thinking I should take here. Just hoping that my knight doesn't get trapped. Knight takes d2. My knight might get trapped, though. I don't think it will. Okay, let's do this.
Check.
Okay. They have knight c5. Annoying.
Check.
Very annoying. It's going to be a time scramble now. I think my creativity got the best of me a little bit in this one. I still like... Well, I don't like my position, but I think my chances are okay. Trying to play king e7 and take this pawn. If the king comes to e2, I have knight c3 check followed by taking, so it's okay. Just shove these pawns. Let's give a check. And let's go here. I can go knight c3 if I need to.
Check.
I have check here.
Check.
Yeah, now they can't stop the pawn. They resign. Okay, white misplayed that ending severely. But, yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed that I wasn't able to demonstrate some more convincing idea when I had the nice pawn wedge on d3. Let's take a look, though. So, yeah, as I've said, I've played some games with e5 in the past, including some tournament games. That win I was mentioning was against GM Pavel Blatny back in, I think 2002 or so. 2002, 2003 is when I beat my first Grandmaster. But considering the mentality of the player who plays b3 on move 1, I think they face e5 a lot. Specifically, I think they face the following line a lot. Here, e3 is usually played, d5, bishop b5. So this type of line with bishop d6, and then there's like f4. And also the line with knight f6, bishop b5, and now d6 or bishop d6 especially. Bishop d6 used to be a fashionable way of playing against this line, and actually that's the move that I played against that grandmaster way back in like 2002 or 3. But now it's not a surprise at all if anyone plays bishop d6. And it's kind of an awkward looking move. It blocks the d-pawn. So the shock value of a move like that has been completely lost. So I don't think there's anything stopping black from just adopting a formation like I did in the game. So I was happy with the position. So yeah, it's kind of boring, like the minor pieces get traded, but as black, you have to be okay with playing positions that are just equalish out of the opening. That should be a minor victory for you, considering that you're black. So let's take a look at this position with the engine. Let's just see if it likes my d4 move. Already says I'm doing well. I like d4 because I thought, let's say I castle. I thought they could play d4 themselves. And I don't know, maybe black has something minimal. I'm slightly better developed, but only by a tempo. Shouldn't be much, if anything at all. So that's why I played d4. They played e4, knight d7. I think they should play d3. I would play d3 before committing to f4. But he felt differently. He played f4 right away. Maybe d3 is overreaching. I like the idea, so especially after f5. Yeah, maybe he should just play knight c3 and leave the pawn on f4, because I don't think I'm thrilled to capture on f4. Maybe I could if it meant getting an outpost on e5, let's say in the event of something like this. But my knight is practically my only good piece now. It is a nice piece on that square, though. So he played f5. I went queen d4. Yeah, so the position I was envisioning was something like this, which looks downright awful for white. I don't think the computer is showing how bad this could be for white. Because what does he do with this knight? It can't go to c3, can only develop itself through a3, and then where does it go? I guess he tries to play c5 and knight c4? But meanwhile, I get this nice square. Maybe he could do something like that and try to stop the bleeding. But I was just thinking of a position like this where this knight is nestled on this square. It's defending d3, which is the extended pawn that needs monitoring. And yeah, I hoped that the d-file situation would completely cut the board in half and he would have trouble for the rest of the game. But I think he realized what I was up to, so he just played knight c3. The engine thinks I should just trade queens.
Check. And
then play a5. Yeah, a5 would be a good move to secure the c5 outpost. Oftentimes you need that move. This happens in openings like the King's Indian, for instance. You want to get the knight to c5 if you're black, but if you bring the knight to c5 immediately, they have b4, kicking it away. So you have to play a move to dissuade the b-pawn from advancing to the b4 square. And then I could play knight c5 on the next move, hopefully. Yeah, the knight would be better on c5 than like over on f6, wouldn't it? Because on c5, I could not only attack e4, but also defend d3. So I guess it's not surprising that the engine thinks this is clearly better for black. Yeah, and if this knight strays too far, I might just change my mind and play knight f6 and remind him that this pawn is weak. So maybe I should have captured on e3 right away. I played rook d8, went here, I went knight f6, rook e1. So I was initially enthusiastic about this move because I thought that after queen takes d4, which is forced, pawn takes d4, I could get my dream scenario with the knight coming to e5. But the move that put me off was knight d1. And then after knight e5, rook g3. And quite simply, I don't have a defense to knight f2 followed by knight takes d3. This position still looks good to me visually, but I mean, what am I doing about knight f2 takes d3? And also the g7 pawn is under attack. So that's why I played h5. I was just trying to gain some space and maybe push my pawn to h4 to take away g3. But went knight d1. Yeah, and then I did that. That's probably not a good move. I was still caught up in some sort of chance to do something tactically. But yeah, king e7 makes a lot of sense. I don't have to castle necessarily because the queens are probably coming off the board. So king e7, centralize, and I guess the position is roughly equal. Knight f2, because yeah, I do have to take care with this d pawn. It's not an immortal pawn on d3. So I took e4. These type of moves are kind of frustrating because I have a sneaking suspicion he didn't see knight takes e4, but even though I go up a pawn, it's like not necessarily good for me after the swap and then knight f2. So yeah, he took on e5 with check. He played that very quickly too. I think he pre-moved it because he could. Yeah, and now I have to be careful not to get my knight trapped. I guess I can always escape through b1 to c3, but it's precarious. This move wasn't good in view of knight c5. Maybe b6 or something? Yeah, he can... What happens after this? Knight e5 check. Ooh, loose pawns all over the place. Suddenly my coordination stinks. Yeah, this is a scenario I feared. So that's why I played rook d8. Now, he has more than twice the time that I do.
Check.
And I'm down a pawn, but I do have decent king activity. Knight e4 is a nice move because it stops his king from having a straight shot to the center with king f2. And I also have the option of going to c3 and attacking that pawn. And he definitely misplayed this endgame. Guess here, where did I go wrong? So my position was okay for a second there. Okay, maybe I should have gone after that a-pawn. I saw I could do this, but I was worried that my knight would get kind of out of the game and I'd be giving him tempos to centralize his king. You know, something like this. And he could come into c5 and give me all sorts of trouble. But apparently that's better. So why is what I did so bad? King here. Knight d8.
Check.
c5 check. c5 is a better move. Okay. Probably planning knight d8 and then take on c6 without black having the option of going c5 check. Okay, so it just seems my majority is not nearly as dangerous as his majority, assisted by his king and his knight. My king, although it's over on the king side, isn't in a position to threaten these guys down on h2 and g2.
Check.
But the clock matters so much right now, and he was trying to play fast, and I was trying to play fast, and b4 was overreaching, I think. Yeah, something like knight c6, just continue attacking my pawns. That's a good move because it threatens a7 and it also threatens knight e7 check, maybe. I guess I could go to f4 then, but something else to think about. Actually, if he just pursues my a-pawn, I can't defend that pawn, can I? I can only ever go check and then take, but by then he'll have won both of these pawns, most likely. Losing for me. So, yeah, he got carried away with his c-pawn, and fortunately for me, I saw that I could get back in time and play this knight b5 check move to pick off his c-pawn, and then he resigned because he's unable to stop my b-pawn. If king takes b3, and it's a runaway train. Never coming back. Wrong way on a one-way track, to quote Soul Asylum. Yeah, so that was an interesting game. It's hard sometimes in Blitz games to balance like your desire to create something of aesthetic value. Like for me, the aesthetic value that I saw in the position was this hypothetical position where I have the double D pawns with a nice knight on e5. Maybe this just appealed to my inner positional player. But the realities of this and trying to pursue that for a while could have cost me the game, especially right around here. And also, you have to be very objective in chess. I've talked about this before, but knight takes e4, even when I made that move, I was kind of sensing like it might not work out, but I'd already spent some time, and I felt like I almost deserved to have this move work out, but that's always a dangerous mentality. If you start feeling that way in the course of the game, you have to knock that off right away. You got to curtail that mentality because that's dangerous. When you feel like you deserve to win, or my opponent played bad, I deserve to attack his king or win material, that clouds your judgment because you don't deserve anything in chess. The only thing that matters in chess is what happens on the board and objectively what the evaluation is. So even when people say, I deserve to win that game, I mean, at the end of the day, did you win the game? If you didn't, I would argue that you did deserve to win. I mean, chess is a game where luck plays by far the smallest role of any board game I'm aware of. And, you know, deserving to me is someone who works hard and executes over the board, you know, and they make it happen where it counts. So that's deserving. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this game, and I'll be back tomorrow with another Blitz game. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.